Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is the series where we take a specific mythology, crack it open, and really try to understand the machinery inside.
And usually when you think about ancient mythology, your mind immediately goes somewhere warm.
It does. It goes to the Mediterranean. You know, you picture these sun-drenched marble columns, philosophers debating in the agora, gods kind of lounging around on Mount Olympus. It's all very civilized.
Very orderly. It's a geometry of sunlight and logic, you could say. But today, well, we're trading the wine for meat and the sunshine for something much, much colder.
We are heading north. We are going into a world of freezing mist, of long, long twilights, and just this sense of impending doom. Today, we are tackling the architecture of Norse mythology.
And architecture is absolutely the right word.
I thought so because looking at the stack of research we have here, I mean, you've got the Eddas, the sagas, the archaeology. It doesn't feel like just a random collection of cool stories about Thor smashing things with a hammer.
Yeah.
It feels like a very specific structural way of looking at reality.
It is. It's what a lot of scholars call an existential architecture.
Yeah.
You have to put yourself in the mindset, in the environment where this worldview was born.
The Scandinavian winter.
Exactly. The winter there isn't just a season, it's an active threat. The days get incredibly short, survival is never, ever guaranteed, and nature. Well, nature isn't a benevolent garden that wants to feed you.
It's a source that is actively trying to kill you.
It really is. And that pressure cooker creates a very specific kind of worldview.
Yeah, that creates a certain vibe. Because in a lot of other religions, you get this really clear-cut battle between good and evil, moral absolutes. But as I was going through all this, that just doesn't seem to fit here. It feels less like good versus evil and more like, I don't know, order versus entropy.
That is the central tension, 100%. The core conflict isn't moral, it's physical, it's existential. On one side, you have the Aesir, the gods we know, like Odin and Thor. They represent order, law, consciousness, building things, holding things together. Structure. And on the other side, you have the Jötnar.
Which we always translate as giants.
We do, and it makes us think of fairy tales. You know, big, clumsy guys and beanstalks. But a much better, much more accurate translation might be the Devourers.
The Devourers, that's much more intimidating.
It is. They represent entropy, chaos, the raw, destructive, elemental forces of nature. Ice, fire, waves that want to grind everything that has been built back down to nothing.
So you have these two opposing forces.
I'm standing right in the middle. The thing holding this entire fragile system together is the world tree, Yggdrasil. It's the axis mundi, the cosmic pillar that binds all these disparate, warring realms together.
And this is the hook for me, the thing that makes this so different from, say, Christianity or even Greek myth. The system is doomed from the start.
It is absolutely doomed.
Yeah.
The gods aren't omnipotent, and they're certainly not immortal. They age, they can be wounded, they can be killed, and they know for a fact that one day they are going to lose the big war.
And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to explore why a mythology that is fundamentally about inevitable defeat, this concept of Ragnarök, why that resonates so clearly with us right now.
It does. I mean, we're living in a time of incredible anxiety, environmental anxiety, geopolitical upheaval, that feeling of the twilight of the gods, as it's called. It feels strangely uncomfortably familiar.
So let's unpack this whole thing. We have a massive amount of material to cover. We're going to look at the origins, the creation of the world, gods themselves, the rituals, and of course the end times.
But before we can get to the end of the world, we have to talk about where this information actually comes from.
Right, because unlike, say, the Romans or the ancient Israelites, the Vikings didn't leave us a Bible. There's no Book of Odin.
No, they didn't. And this brings us to what scholars call the textual condition, which is a fancy way of saying we have a major source problem.
Which is that the Viking Age, which runs, roughly from the late 700s to about 1066.
That's the one. It was primarily oral culture. Stories, poems, laws. It was all memorized and spoken, not written down in books.
But they had runes, though. We've all seen the rune stones. They were writing things down.
They were, but runes are epigraphic. You carve them into stone or wood or bone. They're short, punchy statements. You know, Thorwald raised this stone for his father. I consecrated this sword. I built this bridge.
It's like a cosmic tweet.
It's exactly like a tweet.
Yeah.
It's the difference between a tweet and a novel. You just can't capture the nuance and complexity of a whole mythological system on a rock face. It's not what it's for.
So we don't really have the Vikings' own words about their religion in a structured, long-form format. We're essentially playing a game of telephone. but the person at the end of the line is a Christian monk living hundreds of years later.
That is a fantastic analogy. We are relying on a triangulation of sources, trying to find the truth in the middle.
Okay, so what's the first point of the triangle?
First, you have hostile foreign accounts. Think of the monks in England or Germany who were on the receiving end of Viking raids. They wrote about the Norse, but they viewed their religion as, pure devil worship. So their accounts are useful, but incredibly biased.
Not exactly objective journalism.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But our absolute gold mine, the place where most of our knowledge comes from, is Iceland.
The Icelandic repository.
Iceland is unique in this. See, even after they officially converted to Christianity, which happened around the year 1000, they kept this deep, almost obsessive respect for their ancestral poetry and their old stories.
They didn't just burn everything like in other places.
They preserved it. And we have two main pillars of that preservation: the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda.
Okay, help us distinguish these because the names are confusingly similar and people mix them up all the time.
All the time. So think of the Poetic Edda as the raw source material. It's this incredible collection of anonymous poems, mostly found in a medieval manuscript called Codex Regius.
The King's Book.
The King's Book. And when you read poems from it, like the Völuspá, the prophecy of the seeress, or the Havamal, the words of the High One, you feel like you are hearing the archaic rhythms of the oral tradition itself.
They feel old.
They feel ancient. They're cryptic. They're stark. They don't explain themselves. They just are. They're the closest thing we have to a direct pagan voice.
Okay, so that's the raw stuff. Then there's the Prose Edda. And this one is tied to a specific guy, Snorri Sturluson.
Snorri. What a character. He was a major Icelandic politician, a historian, a poet, and he's writing around 1220 CE.
So wait, that's more than 200 years after the conversion to Christianity?
A long time after.
Yeah.
And he has an agenda. His main goal was to preserve the art of skaldic poetry. This was the really complex stuff the court poets composed, and it was packed with mythological metaphors they called kennings.
Right, so instead of saying the sea, a poet might say the whale road.
Exactly. Or instead of a battle, they'd say the storm of swords. But to explain these metaphors to a 13th century Christian audience who didn't grow up with the stories, he had to first tell them the old myths.
You can't understand why a shield is called the land of the serpent if you don't know the story of Thor fishing for the world serpent.
Precisely. But he had to be very, very careful. He was a Christian writing for Christians about pagan gods.
Yeah, that's a fine line to walk. The research really emphasizes that we have to be careful with Snorri because he was trying to make these pagan gods safe for his readership.
Absolutely. He uses this clever technique called euhemerism.
Okay, break that down for us.
Humorism is the theory that mythological gods weren't actually divine beings at all. They were just really impressive historical humans. Kings, heroes, warlords, who were so amazing that over time, people started worshiping them as gods.
So he frames it as history, not religion.
He does. In the prologue to his Edda, Snorri claims that Odin and Thor and the others weren't gods. He says they were refugees from the Trojan War.
Get out of here. He tried to tie Thor to the Trojan War.
He did. He presents them as human warlords from Troy who traveled north. And because they were so advanced and clever, they tricked the primitive locals into thinking they were divine.
That is a wild retcon, but I guess it worked.
It was a brilliant political maneuver. It allowed Icelandic Christians to learn and enjoy the old stories without being accused of heresy or paganism. They could just say, oh, these aren't false idols, they're just our distant ancestors from Troy.
So when we read Snorri, we have to kind of unfilter him. We have to strip away the Christian rationalization he layered on top to get back to the pagan core underneath.
That's the work of the scholar, exactly. You take Snorri's narrative, compare it with the raw poems in the Poetic Edda, and then you look at the third point of the triangle, archaeology.
The physical evidence, the ships, the grave goods, the rune stones.
All of it. We use that to fact-check the stories and see how the religion was actually practiced.
Okay, so with all that in mind, the biased sources, the Christian filter, the oral tradition, let's look at what they actually tell us about the beginning of everything, because the Norse creation myth is, well, it's not very elegant. It's more like a chemistry experiment gone wrong.
It really is. It doesn't start with a divine voice saying, let there be light. It starts with thermodynamics and a void.
It starts with the Ginnunga gap.
The yawning void. A vast, vast abyss of nothingness. But it isn't truly empty. It's charged with potential. It's a space between two primordial realms.
To the north, you have Niflheim.
A realm of unimaginable cold, darkness, ice, and freezing mist. And to the south, you have Muspelheim,
The land of fire.
a realm of raging, eternal fire guarded by the great fire giant Surtur with his flaming sword.
So you have these two extremes, absolute cold and absolute heat on either side of this void.
And inevitably, they start to interact in the middle. The searing heat from Muspelheim meets the venomous rime ice from Niflheim in the center of the Ginnunga Gap.
Fire meets ice, a song of ice and fire.
The original song of ice and fire, yes. And the ice begins to melt. And from those drops of meltwater, life emerges. But it's not some beautiful, perfect being or a garden.
No, it's a monster.
It's a monster. Ymir, the primal giant.
And Ymir is described as being a hermaphrodite, right? Self-reproducing.
Yes. Ymir is this massive, singular being that contains the potential for all life, but it's a chaotic, uncontrolled life. As Ymir sleeps, he sweats. And from the sweat in his left armpit, a male and a female giant grow.
Gross.
It's very visceral. And then his legs mate with each other and get another son. It's this very biological, almost uncomfortable image of spontaneous, monstrous generation.
It's definitely not the molded from the dust of the earth approach. It's sweat and biology.
Very much so. But Ymir wasn't the only thing to emerge from the melting ice.
Right. There was also a cow.
The cosmic cow, Oundla.
I love this detail so much. The giant space cow. It sounds absurd to us, but why a cow? What's the significance there?
It sounds funny to modern ears, for sure. But you have to remember the context. For these early Indo-European peoples, cattle were everything. They were the center of economic life, of survival itself. Milk was life.
So, of course, the great sustainer of the universe is a cow.
It makes perfect sense. She nourished the giant Ymir with 4 rivers of milk that flowed from her udders. And to feed herself, she had nothing else to eat. So she began to lick the salty rhinestones that were also forming in the void.
And this is where the gods finally enter the picture.
This is their origin. On the first day Aglubla licked the stones, a man's hair appeared. On the second day, a head. And on the third day, the whole man emerged from the salty ice. His name was Buri.
The first of the Ezer line.
The very first. He had a son named Bor, who then married a giantess named Besla. And they had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve.
The original trio. The first gods. And this leads to the first major event in the cosmic timeline, the first murder.
It's essentially a fratricide, on a cosmic scale, since they are related to the giants through their grandmother. Odin and his brothers look at Ymir and this endless, chaotic brood of giants spawning from him, and they see a cancer. They see a tumor growing in the void that will consume everything.
So to establish order, they have to commit this act of ultimate violence.
They do. They kill Ymir.
And it is a bloodbath.
The myth says that the blood gushed from Ymir's wounds in such an incredible volume that it created a flood of blood that drowned the entire race of frost giants.
The whole species.
Almost. The sources say that just 2, a giant named Bergelmir and his wife, escaped by climbing into a hollowed-out log like a crude ark. They survived to repopulate the species.
And that's the origin of the eternal blood feud between the gods and giants. It starts right there with a genocide.
It starts with the gods establishing their order by slaughtering the progenitor of the entire giant race, but then they do something even more.
Yeah.
Well, grotesque and creative.
They don't just dispose of the body.
They drag Ymir's enormous corpse into the center of the Ginnunga Gap, and they build the entire known universe out of it. This is the corporeal cosmology you see mentioned in the notes.
The world is literally a corpse. That's the fundamental metaphor.
That's it. His flesh they make into the soil and the earth. His unbroken bones become the mountains. His teeth and the splinters of his shattered bones become the rocks and the gravel.
And his blood.
His blood becomes the oceans, the rivers, and the lakes that surround the land.
What about the sky?
For the sky, they take his massive skull and they raise it up to form the dome of the heavens. And to hold in place, they station 4 dwarves at the cardinal points: Nordri, Sudri, Austri, and Westri.
North, south, east, and west. So the sky is a skull being held up by 4 dwarves.
It is. And the clouds you see drifting in that sky. Snorri tells us those are Ymir's brains, which the gods threw up there to float around.
That's amazing, but the most telling detail for me is what they did with his eyebrows.
Ah, yes. They took Ymir's eyelashes and eyebrows, and they used them to build a massive fortification, a circular wall around the best part of the world to protect it from the giants who live on the outside.
And that enclosure is Midgard.
That's Midgard, Middle Earth. That's where we live.
So humanity's home is a fortress, a safe zone, made from a dead giant's eyebrows to keep the monsters out.
It tells you everything you need to know about the paranoia of this worldview, doesn't it? We are living inside a defensive structure made of death, besieged by chaos on all sides. It is incredibly metal.
Speaking of us, where do humans fit into this? If the world is a corpse, what are we?
We're driftwood. The story goes that after building the world, Odin and his brothers were walking along the shoreline of the great ocean. And there they found two logs washed up on the beach, one from an ash tree and one from an elm.
Just lifeless wood.
Shapeless, soulless, dead wood. The gods took these logs and stood them up. Odin, the Allfather, leaned in and gave them und, which means breath, but also spirit. Vili then gave them urit, consciousness, feeling. And finally, Ve gave them form, appearance, and the power of speech.
Ask and Embla. Ash and elm.
The first man and woman. And it's such a beautiful contrast to, say, the Abrahamic narrative. We aren't fallen angels. We're not made from clay or dust. We are organic matter found on the edge of the sea, and we are elevated by the gifts, by the breath of the divine. We are rooted literally in the natural world.
So we have the stage set. A world made of a giant's body, humans made from trees. Let's look at the players. The divine hierarchy. Because it's not just one big happy family living up in Asgard.
No, it's not. It's actually two different divine families, two tribes of gods that merged together over time.
You have the Aesir and the Vanir.
Exactly. The Aesir are the ones we tend to know best. They're the main gods of the pantheon. Odin, Thor, Tyr, Balder. They live in Asgard.
And they're associated with, what? War, the sky.
War, governance, social order, law, power. They represent, in many ways, that classic Indo-European warrior class. The sky gods.
Okay, so they're one tribe. Who are the Vanir?
The Vanir are the other tribe. They lived in their own realm, Vanaheim, and they're much more earthy. They're associated with fertility, wealth, prosperity, and a specific kind of shamanistic nature magic called seer.
And they didn't get along at first, I take it.
Not at all.
Yeah.
The myths tell of a great war between them, the first war in all of creation. It was triggered when the Aesir tried to kill a Vanir goddess or sorceress named Golveig. Her name means something like gold greed or gold draft.
Why did they try to kill her?
The poems are cryptic, but it seems she brought some kind of corruption or greed into Asgard. So they speared her and they burned her in the Great Hall, but she was reborn from the ashes. They burned her a second time and she was reborn again, and a third time.
So she was unkillable.
And this act sparked a war. The war raged for a long time, and it was a complete stalemate. The Aesir had the superior weapons and tactics, but the Vanir had this powerful magic that the Aesir couldn't counter.
So they called a truce.
They did. They realized neither side could win, so they decided to merge the tribes. And to seal the peace, they exchanged hostages. The Vanir sent some of their most important members, the sea god Njörður and his two children, the twins Freyr and Freya, to live in Asgard.
And the notes suggest this isn't just a fantasy story. This might be history wrapped in the language of myth.
That is the prevailing theory, yes. It's very likely that this story preserves the cultural memory of a real synthesis that happened in prehistoric Scandinavia. You probably had invading battle-axe cultures who worshipped sky and warrior gods, encountering indigenous agricultural populations who worshipped earth and fertility deities.
And eventually, instead of wiping each other out, they merged. Their cultures, their peoples, and their gods.
Their pantheons fused. The myth of the truce explains how these two distinct religious systems became one. It's fascinating. The mythology is preserving a memory of a peace treaty from thousands and thousands of years ago.
So that's the divine family, but outside of this divine circle, you have the Jötnar, the giants. And we need to be really clear here. They are not just big, dumb brutes.
No, that's a modern cartoon version. Remember, they're the devourers.
Right.
They are the older race. In some ways, wiser. They possess the raw, untamed power of the cosmos. And here's the great paradox of the whole system. The gods fight them constantly, yes, it's their primary job. But they also marry them.
Odin himself is half-giant. His mother was Bestla.
Thor's mother is Jora, the personification of the earth, a giantess. Freyr, a Vanir god, falls hopelessly in love with the beautiful giantess Gerar. The gods need the raw genetic material, so to speak, of the giants to remain strong and vital.
They need that chaotic energy.
If they only bred among themselves, they would become stagnant, weak, decadent. They need to infuse their order with that chaotic vitality from the outside, even as they fight to keep that same chaos from overwhelming and destroying the world. It's a very complex, very tense relationship.
Order needs a little bit of chaos to survive. It's a balancing act.
An incredibly precarious one. And below the gods and giants, you also have other races. The Alfar, or elves, and the Jurgar, the dwarves, who are the master smiths living underground. And crucially, you have the landvittir,
The land spirits.
the spirits of place, the spirits of the rocks, the waterfalls, the groves. These were incredibly important on a daily basis and needed constant appeasement.
Okay, so that's the hierarchy. Let's get into the personalities. We have to start with the big guy, the Allfather, Odin.
Or Woden, the
Yep.
frenzied one.
Yeah, and pop culture, Marvel obviously paints him as this very benevolent, wise, grandfatherly king, Anthony Hopkins in shining gold armor.
Right.
But the sources, the Eddas and the poems, they describe someone much more unsettling.
He is terrifying. He is absolutely terrifying. He's the god of war, but he's not the god of noble strategy or tactical genius like, say, Athena. He's the god of the battle frenzy, the berserker rage, the ecstatic, terrifying fury of battle.
And he's also the god of the hanged. What does that mean?
It means that sacrificial victims to Odin were often hanged from trees and pierced with spears. And he himself is the archetype of the self-sacrificer. He is pathologically obsessed with gathering knowledge and wisdom, and he believes no price is too high to pay for it.
Like his eye.
A famous story. He traveled to the well of the giant Mimir, whose waters contained all the wisdom of the cosmos. Mimir wouldn't let him drink unless he paid a great price. So Odin plucked out his own eye and dropped it into the well as payment.
One eye for one drink of wisdom.
It's a statement of intent, and it's not even his most extreme act of self-sacrifice.
The hanging from the tree.
That is his defining moment. The Havamal poem has him speak in his own voice. He says he hung from Yggdrasil, the windy tree, for 9 full days and 9 full nights. He was pierced by his own spear, with no food and no water, in an offering of myself to myself.
Myself to myself. That's such a strange psychedelic concept.
It is deeply shamanic. He is ritually killing himself to push his consciousness to the absolute brink of death so he can peer into the other side, into the realm of primordial secrets.
And what does he bring back from this ordeal?
He brings back the runes, the knowledge of magic, of secrets, of writing itself. He screams as he grasps them and then falls from the tree, reborn with this immense power.
And it's important to note, he's not gathering all this wisdom for self-improvement or enlightenment.
No, he's doing it because he knows Ragnarök is coming. He has the gift of prophecy, so he knows the end is inevitable. He's the ultimate prepper. He's gathering every scrap of knowledge, every powerful hero, every magical weapon, all in a desperate, doomed attempt to stave off the end of the world.
He has his ravens, Hugin and Munin.
Thought and memory. They fly over the entire world every single day and return to his shoulder to whisper all the news they've seen. He is the god of information, of intelligence gathering. He has to know everything.
So if Odin is the god of the elite, the kings, the poets, the warrior aristocracy, the sorcerers, then Thor is the god of the 99%.
100%. Thor, the Thunderer. He is the people's champion. If you look at the archaeology, you find hundreds, maybe thousands, of little Mjolnir hammer amulets worn by common people all over the Viking world. You almost never find a symbol of Odin in a common grave.
It was too scary.
He was aristocratic and dangerous. Thor is the protector. He's not complex or Machiavellian like his father. He's refreshingly straightforward. There is a problem, usually a giant, and he hits it with a hammer. End of story.
Let's talk about that hammer. Mjolnir, usually translated as the crusher or the grinder.
It's the ultimate weapon, forged by dwarves. It can shatter mountains, and it always returns to his hand when he throws it. It represents the power of the lightning bolt, but it's also a tool for the community.
It's not just for smashing.
No, it's also for hallowing, for making things sacred. Thor uses Mjolnir to bless a newborn child, to sanctify a wedding, to protect a farmer's fields. He's the guy you call when the house is on fire or your crops are failing. He's dependable.
I loved the details about his other gear, too. He has the iron gloves he needs to handle the powerful hammer and the belt of strength that doubles his power. And the goats. We have to talk about the goats.
Tengrisnir and Tengjaster, Teeth Bearer and Teeth Grinder. They pull his chariot across the sky, and that's the sound of thunder we hear.
And the best part is that they're also his renewable food source.
It's an amazing detail. When Thor is traveling in Midgard, if he and his companions get hungry, he simply slaughters his goats, cooks them, and they have a feast.
And then
Then he gathers up all the bones, being very careful not to lose or break any of them. He lays the goat skins out, puts the bones on top, and in the morning, he hallows them with Mjolnir, and they spring back to life, good as new.
it's an infinite food glitch.
As long as you don't break the bones. There's a famous story where he's sharing a meal with a human family, and the young son, Thjalfi, is so hungry he breaks one of the leg bones to suck out the marrow.
Oh, no.
And the next morning, when Thor resurrects the goats, one of them is lame. Thor's rage is described as so immense that the human family thought they were going to die on the spot. But it shows his role. He sustains, he provides, he revives.
Okay, so you have the scary, calculating king, and you have the brawny, dependable protector. And then you have the agent of chaos, Loki.
The chaos architect, the architect of problems. Loki is one of the most fascinating and complex figures in any mythology because he just defies easy categorization.
He's not one of the Aesir, technically.
No, he is a giant by birth. He's the son of giants. The only reason he's even allowed in Asgard is because early on, he and Odin swore an oath of blood brotherhood.
So Odin is bound by honor to let him in.
Exactly. And in the early myths, he's more of a trickster. He's mischievous, a nuisance, but he's often useful. He causes problems, but then he solves them in a way that often leaves the gods better off.
Like the story of Sif's hair.
The classic example. He, as a prank, shears off all the beautiful golden hair of Sif, who is Thor's wife. Thor's about to kill him, but Loki promises to fix it. He goes down to the dwarves, the master smiths.
And he makes a bet.
He plays on their pride. He bets one group of dwarves that another group can't make treasures more magnificent than the ones they just made. And through his trickery, they end up creating not just new, perfect, magical golden hair for Sif, but also Odin's spear Gungnir that never misses. And most importantly, Thor's hammer Mjolnir.
So the gods get their greatest treasures all because Loki pulled a stupid prank.
He's the god of problems and solutions. But as the mythology progresses, you see him take a much darker turn.
He stops being mischievous and becomes genuinely malicious.
He does. He secretly fathers a brood of monstrous children with a giantess. These are the three great enemies of the gods: Fenrir the wolf, Jormungandr the world serpent, and Hel, the goddess of death.
And then comes the death of Balder.
And that is the point of no return. Balder is the most beautiful, most beloved of all the gods. His mother, Frigg, made everything in creation swear an oath not to harm him,
Everything except the mistletoe.
which she thought was too young and harmless to bother with. Loki finds this out. He fashions a dart from mistletoe, gives it to the blind god Hur, and tricks him into throwing it at Balder during a game, and it kills him instantly.
The first real death among the gods.
It's the event that signals the beginning of the end. After this, the gods have had enough. They hunt Loki down, they take him to a dark cave, they kill one of his other sons, and they use his entrails to bind Loki to three sharp rocks.
And the snake.
And they place a giant venomous snake on a ledge above his face, where it drips poison onto him for all eternity. His loyal wife, Sigyn, stays with him, catching the venom in a bowl. But when the bowl is full and she has to turn away to empty it, the venom drips on his face. And his writhing in agony is what the Norse believed caused earthquakes.
And he stays there, bound and in agony, until Ragnarök.
Waiting for his revenge. It's an incredibly dark and dysfunctional family dynamic.
Now, the Norse didn't just tell stories about the gods acting alone. They seemed obsessed with how the divine world interfered with human bloodlines. And this brings us to one of the great epics of world literature, the Volsunga Saga.
The Volsunga Saga is the bridge between the world of myth and the world of human legend. And if you are a fan of modern fantasy, especially Tolkien, this is ground zero. This is the source code for so much of it.
It starts with a scene that feels very, very familiar to anyone who knows the King Arthur stories.
It's the original sword in the stone, but it's a sword in a tree. The great King Volsung builds his hall around a massive living tree, the Barnstalker. And during a wedding feast, a tall, one-eyed stranger in a dark cloak walks into the hall.
Odin, obviously.
Obviously Odin. He walks up to the tree, and he thrusts a magnificent sword deep into the trunk, right up to the hilt. And he says that whoever can pull the sword out can keep it, and it will bring them great victory.
And everyone tries, but of course only Sigmund, the king's youngest son, can pull it free.
And this sword, which is named Gram, brings him victory, yes, but it also brings him nothing but trouble. The whole saga just spirals into war, jealousy, betrayal, revenge. It gets incredibly dark. We're talking werewolves, incestuous relationships, feuds that last for generations.
And Sigmund eventually dies in battle because Odin decides his time is up.
Yes. After many years and many adventures, Odin himself appears on the battlefield, and he holds out his spear, and as Sigmund strikes at it, the divine sword Gram shatters into pieces against the divine weapon.
I gave you the sword, and I am the one who takes it away.
That's the message. But the pieces are saved by Sigmund's wife for their unborn son, Sigurd. And Sigurd is the ultimate hero of the North. He is their Achilles.
Sigurd the Dragon Slayer.
He grows up, takes the shards of his father's sword to the smith region, and has it reforged. It's so sharp and strong he can cleave an anvil in two with it.
And Regin, his foster father, has a job for him.
He does. Regin's brother Fafnir has murdered their father for a horde of cursed gold, and, through his all-consuming greed, has physically transformed himself into a monstrous dragon to guard it.
That is such a powerful metaphor. Greed doesn't just corrupt you, it literally makes you a monster.
It's a central theme. So Sigurd, prompted by Regin, goes to kill the dragon. He cleverly digs a pit in the path Fafnir takes to his watering hole, hides inside, and as the dragon crawls over, he thrusts the sword Graham up into its soft underbelly, killing it.
But the key moment, the aha moment, happens after the dragon is dead.
It does. Regin asks Sigurd to roast the dragon's heart for him. Sigurd is cooking it over the fire, and he touches it with his finger to see if it's done. He burns his thumb and instinctively puts it in his mouth.
He tastes the dragon blood, or the dragon heart fat.
And in that instant, he gains a new form of wisdom. The magic in the dragon's blood allows him to understand the language of the birds.
And what are the birds saying?
The birds in the tree above him are chirping to each other. Look at Sigurd, what a fool. He doesn't realize Regin is planning to kill him now and take all the gold for himself. He should kill Regin first.
So he does. He chops off Regin's head.
He does. And he takes the cursed gold, including a specific fateful ring, the Anveranat, and he rides off. His journey then leads him to a mountaintop, surrounded by a wall of magical fire.
This sounds like a fairy tale.
It is straight-up Sleeping Beauty, but heavy metal. He rides his magical horse through the flames, and inside he finds a warrior in full armor asleep. He removes the helmet and finds that it's a woman. A Valkyrie, Brynhild, who was put into this magical sleep by Odin as a punishment.
And he wakes her up.
He wakes her, and they fall instantly in love. They are the perfect match, the world's greatest hero and the wise, powerful Valkyrie. They pledge their love to each other. But fate, what the Norse called weird, has other plans.
This is where it gets tragic.
Deeply tragic. Through a series of magical deceptions involving a potion of forgetfulness, Sigurd is tricked into forgetting Brynhild entirely and marrying another woman. And worse, Brynhild is tricked into marrying that woman's brother, Gunnar.
But she eventually finds out the truth.
When she finds out the truth that she was deceived and that Sigurd, the only man she ever loved, betrayed her, even if it was unknowingly, her love curdles into this absolute, icy, implacable hatred.
She can't live with the dishonor.
She can't. And so she orchestrates Sigurd's murder. But once he is dead, her grief overwhelms her hatred, and she takes her own life, demanding to be placed on his funeral pyre so they can burn together.
Wow. It's just a complete collision of human passion and this implacable sense of fate. Nobody gets a happy ending.
That is the central lesson of so much of this literature. Even the greatest hero, with the magic sword and the dragon's gold, cannot escape the web of fate woven by the Norns.
So how did actual people, living in the real world, how did they live with this heavy, fatalistic worldview? Let's talk about the practice of the religion. The notes mention this concept of orthopraxy over dogma.
This is absolutely crucial to understanding the mindset. We, in the modern West, tend to think of religion as faith. It's about what you believe in your heart, your personal convictions.
Your dogma.
Your dogma. The Norse and many ancient peoples didn't really care about your heart. They cared about your hands. The religion was called sioror, which just means custom. It was about orthopraxy, doing the correct actions. It didn't matter if you believed in Thor. It mattered that you performed the blot correctly so the harvest wouldn't fail and the community would prosper.
Okay, the blot. Walk us through what that was.
A blot was a sacrificial feast. The community would gather at a sacred place, maybe a chieftain's hall or a secret grove. They would slaughter animals. Horses seem to have been a favorite, but also pigs and cattle. They would collect the blood, which was called lot, into special bowls.
And then what did they do with the blood?
They would take twigs, called lautteinar, dip them in the blood, and sprinkle it everywhere. Over the altars, over the walls of the temple or hall, and over the people themselves.
A communal blood sprinkling. That is vivid.
It was about consecrating the space and the people, connecting the community with the divine vitality, the life force that the blood represented. After that, they would boil the meat from the sacrificed animals and have a great communal feast, drinking ale and toasting to the gods for prosperity and victory.
Now we have to address the elephant in the room, or I guess the human in the sacred grove. Did they actually practice human sacrifice?
The literary and archaeological evidence strongly suggests that, yes, they did. A German chronicler, Adam of Bremen, wrote a famous account of the great temple at Uppsala in Sweden. He claimed that every 9 years they had a festival where 9 males of every species, dogs, horses, and men, were hanged together in the sacred grove.
And do we have any proof of that, or is it just a hostile account?
Well, for a long time, people thought it was just anti-pagan propaganda. But then archaeology at places like Trelleborg in Denmark has found wells containing numerous human remains, including children, that look very much like ritual deposits. It seems it wasn't an everyday occurrence, but in times of absolute crisis, a terrible famine, a devastating war, the ultimate offering was deemed necessary.
High stakes. But on a daily household level, people weren't sacrificing their neighbors. They were dealing with the husvitir.
The house spirits, yes. This was the domestic cult, and it was probably more important to the average person than worrying about Odin. You had to maintain a good relationship with the landvitir, the land spirits living in the rock in your field, or the gnome-like spirit living in your barn.
So you'd leave out offerings?
You'd leave a bowl of porridge or pour some ale out for them.
Yeah.
If you insulted them, your cows would go dry, your tools would break, your milk would sour. It was a constant transactional relationship with the invisible world that shared your space.
So you do the rituals, you appease the spirits, you sprinkle the blood, and eventually you die. Now, the pop culture version says that if you're a Viking, you die in battle, and you go to Valhalla and party forever.
Pop culture is, as usual, oversimplifying things. The Norse afterlife was pluralistic. Where you went depended entirely on how you lived and, more importantly, how you died.
And Valhalla was extremely exclusive.
Extremely. It's not Viking heaven. It's an officer candidate school. It's a military barracks in Asgard.
A barracks for what?
For Odin's army. He gathers the souls of the greatest warriors who die in battle, the Einherjar, the lone fighters, because he needs them for the final battle of Ragnarök. Their paradise is not restful. Their afterlife consists of waking up every morning, putting on their armor, and fighting each other to the death in the great courtyard all day long for practice. Then, at dusk, all their wounds magically heal, they are resurrected, and they go into the great hall to feast on an endlessly resurrecting cosmic boar and drink mead served by Valkyries.
An endless cycle of combat training.
That's all it is. It's preparation for war. And it's not even the only place for warriors. The goddess Freyja, who is a goddess of both love and war, actually gets first pick of half of all the battles slain. They go to her realm, Folkvanger.
So if you didn't die heroically in battle, if you
You
just
died of what they called straw death, sickness, accident, or old age, you went to Helheim.
which sounds like hell.
It does, but it's not hell in the Christian sense of fire, brimstone, and eternal punishment. Helheim, ruled by the goddess Hel, Loki's daughter, is just gray, it's cold, it's damp. It's a shadow world where you are reunited with your ancestors and kin who died similar deaths. It's probably quite boring, but it's not torture.
Unless you were a really bad person.
Right. There was a special punishment area for the absolute worst of the worst. It was called Nastran, the Corpse Shore. This was the destination for murderers, adulterers, and especially for oath breakers.
Why especially oathbreaker?
Because in a society without a strong central legal system, a person's word, their oath, was the glue that held everything together. Breaking an oath was the ultimate sin. The sources describe the hall on the corpse shore as being woven from the spines of living serpents, all facing inward, dripping venom from their fangs onto the occupants below.
That sounds genuinely unpleasant.
It shows they absolutely had a moral compass. Reputation and honor were everything.
Okay, so we've reached the finale. The reason Odin is building his army in Valhalla. The reason for all his frantic preparation. Ragnarök.
The twilight or the fate of the gods.
It's prophesied. They know it's coming. And it starts with the Fimbulwinter.
The great winter. 3 winters in a row, with no summer in between. The sun provides no warmth. All life on Earth begins to die. And with the collapse of the environment comes the collapse of society. Brother will fight brother, the prophecy says. All bonds of kinship and law fall apart. It's total anarchy.
And this is the signal for the cosmic jailbreak to happen.
It is. The great wolf skull finally catches the sun and swallows it. His brother Hati catches and swallows the moon. The world is plunged into darkness. The stars fall from the sky. Massive earthquakes shake the world, and the mountains crumble.
And the crumbling mountains break the bonds of the prisoners.
This is what releases Fenrir the wolf, now grown to a monstrous size. His lower jaw scrapes the ground and his upper jaw scrapes the sky, and Loki is freed from his caves. At the same time, the world serpent, Jörmungandr, rises from the depths of the ocean, writhing in fury, causing a massive tidal wave that floods the earth.
And the ship made of fingernails.
This is one of the creepiest details in the whole mythology for me. A ship called Nagfar sets sail from the east. It is a ship built entirely from the unclipped fingernails and toenails of the dead.
Which implies a long, slow, horrifying buildup. It takes eons to collect enough dead men's nails to build a ship.
And it carries the army of giants and the legions of hell, steered by Loki, to the final battlefield.
The gods know this is the final battle. Heimdall the Watchman blows the Jalar horn. The sound echoes through the 9 worlds. The gods in Asgard arm themselves. Odin leads the Einherjar from Valhalla, and they march out to meet their doom. And they all die.
They do. It plays out as a series of fatal one-on-one duels. Odin rides to face the wolf Fenrir. And this is the moment of pure cosmic horror. The Allfather, the god of wisdom, magic, and war, doesn't win. He is swallowed whole.
Just chump, gone.
Gone. It's this shocking statement that even the greatest wisdom and power cannot defeat raw, primal entropy forever. Odin's son Vr then avenges his father by tearing the wolf's jaw apart, but Odin is gone for good.
Then Thor finally faces his ancient nemesis, the serpent.
The great rematch. Thor, the champion of mankind, fights Jörmungandr. He succeeds, he smashes the serpent's head with Mjolnir and kills the monster. But as it dies, the serpent breathes so much of its deadly poison all over him that Thor staggers back 9 steps and then falls dead to the ground. The protector falls.
Tyr fights the hellhound Garmr, and they kill each other. Freyr, the god of fertility, fights the fire giant Surtur and dies because he gave away his magic sword for love long ago. Heimdall and Loki meet, and they kill each other.
Mutual destruction across the board. And when the main combatants have fallen, Surtur, the guardian of Muspelheim, unleashes his fire. He flings fire across the 9 worlds, burning everything. Yggdrasil shudders, and the earth itself sinks into the boiling sea. The universe dissolves back into the primordial void. Silence.
What? That's not quite the end.
That's not the end. The prophecy in the Völuspá continues. The Sirius says, I see the earth rise a second time, green and beautiful from the waves. The destruction wasn't an ending. It was a cleansing.
A universal reset button.
It is. The old system, which was built on that original murder of Ymir, on war, on oath-breaking, on deceit, it's all washed away by fire and water.
And who survives to inherit this new world?
The next generation. The sons, Thor's sons, Modi and Magni, survive, and they find their father's hammer, Mjolnir, lying in the green grass. Odin's sons, Vr and Vali, survive. And the gentle god Balder, whose death started it all, returns from the underworld. It's a new, gentler pantheon.
And what about humanity?
2 humans, a man and a woman named Lif and Lifrasir, Life and Lifestriver, survive by hiding deep within the wood of the world tree itself. They emerge into the new world to repopulate the earth, nourished by the morning dew.
So it's a cycle. It's not a linear apocalypse. It's destruction and then renewal.
The universe is self-correcting. It's a very hopeful ending in a very grim way. It says the absolute worst thing can happen, the entire world can end, and yet life finds a way to begin again.
Before we wrap up here, let's just touch on the legacy of all this. I mean, we are still living in the shadow of the North, aren't we? In ways we don't even realize.
Oh, every single day. Most pervasively, every time you look at a calendar.
The days of the week.
Tuesday is Tyr's Day. Wednesday is Woden's. That's Odin's Day. Thursday is Thursday. Friday is Frigg's, or Freyja's Day. We are literally counting our time by the names of the Norse gods.
And the stories themselves, the archetypes, they're everywhere. Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings is just Odin the Wanderer. The old man with the staff, the wide-brimmed hat, the seeker of knowledge.
The One Ring is the Cursed Ring and Varanot from the Volsunga saga. The sword that was broken and reforged is Sigmund's sword, Graham. Tolkien was a scholar of this stuff, and he consciously used it to build the foundational mythology for modern fantasy. And that's before you even get to Marvel Comics or modern revivals.
Like Asatru.
The growth of modern heathenry, Asatru, which is a genuine attempt to reconstruct and practice this pre-Christian religion today. It's a living faith for many people.
So why? Why does this specific mythology stick with us so powerfully? Why do we keep coming back to the Vikings, to this grim, fatalistic world?
I think it goes right back to what we said at the very beginning, the Gilded Twilight. It is a mythology for hard times. It doesn't promise you that if you're a good person, everything will be fine and you'll be rewarded.
No, it promises you the opposite.
It tells you that the monsters are real, that the forces of entropy and chaos are coming for everything you build, and that, in the end, they will probably win. The wolves will swallow the sun.
There's a but there.
But it says, there is glory, there is meaning, there is honor in the resistance, that's standing up to the darkness, fighting for your kin, for your community, for order, even when you know you can't ultimately win, is the only thing that gives life meaning.
The fame of deeds done. That's the line from the poems.
Exactly. Cattle die, kinsmen die, you yourself must also die. But one thing that never dies is the fame of a dead man's deeds. Walls will fall, heroes will die, gods will be devoured. But what you did in the face of that inevitable doom That is the only true immortality there is.
That is a powerful, if stark, thought to end on. Well, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the ice and fire of the North, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps us appease the great algorithm, which is basically the modern web of where.
Indeed. Don't let the digital Norns cut your thread before you leave a review.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next one.